everybody. Here we are today. I am going to share another conversation with Jennifer and myself. We continue along some of the same things we've talked about in previous videos, but we keep adding new pieces to this. So again, this is about the becoming the oneness within ourselves and the oneness in the collective and how we're actually seeing that manifest. So Jennifer will give some of her examples of her journey, as well as me bringing through channeled information that we will then have further discussion on. And it all aligns with how we are moving forward into the greater of one. I just heard that, the greater of one, and how that actually is going to be happening. So there's some pieces in here that we're going to talk about that all eventually link together. They may sound disparate, but they're not. So we're going to talk about quantum physics. We're going to talk about technology and the divine. And I won't go into a lot of detail there because I don't want to ruin it for you. But we're going to talk about the technology and the divine and how that may actually be able to work together. You know, when you think of the AI component to things, and we think that it's something negative, but that there's a different take on this that I want to share with you. We're also going to talk about remembrance and reintegration. Again, we've been talking a lot about the convergence of us into ourselves, the parts of us, the soul fragment parts of us. We're going to continue along those lines. And again, we offer new information each time that we talk about this topic. We're also talking about how we are rewriting history, and we will explain that. Balancing the imbalances, similar to last time, but with new information. Cleaning up. We're cleaning stuff up. Right and left. We are cleaning things up in our journey. We are changing space and time reality. What does that mean in our journey? What does that look like moving forward? Changing space, time reality. We also talk to calling back our facets, calling back pieces of us, calling back our past lives, and really a back to the future kind of approach. We also discuss black holes. There's a piece that comes up and uses that as a metaphor. So really what this is all this conversation of what is occurring to move us out of this limited 3D state and moving through the ascension journey. So hopefully today you'll take away a couple more things will assist you in your journey forward. Like I've always said, take what resonates with you and toss the rest aside. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Carolyn. I channel information for your awakening and ascension journey. I also offer spiritual awakening mentoring, where I work with you one-on-one in your awakening journey, and I offer distance energy healing through purplerainhealing.com. And these videos are here to offer you more information in putting together the story of your own awakening and ascension and life journey. So below in the description box, you're going to see a place where you can actually go, click on a link, and you're going to get a video on how to create flow in your body for health and wellness. But what it also does is it leads you to my email list, where on a weekly basis, you'll receive a channeled poem from the Light Keepers, who are a group of angelic beings that I channel for your awakening journey and ascension support. So in these emails, what you'll receive is an email per week on Fridays with a channeled message to support you for the upcoming week. So I'm going to get you sent right over to the video with Jennifer and myself. It's a pretty lengthy video, so again, stick with us because I think there's some real pearls throughout this in this conversation. Again, these are conversations we just have, and then we're like, let's share this. So I will join you in the end and wrap up, and I hope you enjoy the video.
You know, and it goes off of what we were doing last time. You know, we're talking about calling our aspects and fractals and facets and, you know, back and kind of saying, hey, what have you been doing? And I'm just trying to get because, you know, I'm realizing more and more, you know, sometimes I talk about these really massive energies that come back, right? Mm-hmm. And that they are, but, you know, those energies, it's not just, it is like a chain. It's like a genealogy. There's these huge energies that are fractalized, and then those are fractalized, and then those are fractalized. So it's not just us bringing them all back into, they're actually like reintegrating and then reintegrating and then reintegrating and then reintegrating. So you feel them at different levels, at different subtleties. Have you noticed this?
So yesterday I had what you just said. I mean, I've had this regular, but yesterday it's all mainly for me, at least the ones that I consciously am aware of, past lives. So past lives are huge for me this time around. I think they are for a lot of people, but for me, it's not so much this current life journey. It's a ton of past life stuff. So yesterday I reintegrated a portion of a past life that is huge for me this time around, but that I kind of thought, oh, well, she's taken care of. We're done with her. No, I had a new piece show up that then actually, and I won't go into all the detail, but the premise is that, yes, another fragment, another piece of the story that I needed to understand in my current journey that's going down right now came back. And it also then reflected itself in, and this is always interesting, in some activities I was doing around the house, like massive cleaning of two things I haven't, like fine tooth comb cleaning. Well, all of a sudden I realized I was putting all this together. I'm like, oh, this all happened. This weird cleaning thing that happened in the last 2 days showed up yesterday in the kind of overwhelm I had with this other part of this past life coming through. And so basically what they said then was, well, you remember the February energy update you just did? We talked about cleaning up the cracks and crevices in the corners. And I'm like, oh, they said, this is what this is you're dealing with. And then, so metaphorically, then it actually, well, not even just metaphorically, but it is kind of a metaphor. But then it showed up in reality in me cleaning my dishwasher. The two things were my dishwasher, unbelievable cleaning and scouring. And like, I don't like to do that stuff. And all of a sudden it was like, nope, we're doing this. And cleaning
ribbon.
Cleaning above my cabinets with these plants and everything. And I'm like, something's up. And it showed up yesterday. So it all rolls up into a big ball. So the reason I bring this up is, per what you just said, we can kind of start to put these pieces together if you're aware, and you can start seeing, like, wait a minute, I feel like I just got taken into a place that normally, like, Carolyn wouldn't just spend all that time on being excited about cleaning a dishwasher and that, but then the story shows up with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. This is so funny because this is kind of like what we were talking about in the last video about, if, because you were saying, we are getting all this background information, but some people don't. I say, well, that doesn't mean you're not doing your work, because in your life, it might show up just like that. I went through this crazy day where I wanted to clean my whole house, nooks and cranny.
Yes.
And you're saying that's how it can show up in somebody's life who's not necessarily tuned into all their, but they're still doing it. They're still doing
it. Because the part that they may not get, which isn't that important, it's just that I get it and I'm going through it now and it helps me with my story, is the part that happened to me yesterday morning, which was the past life showing back up and all this information, and then a book that showed up. It goes on and on, right? So I was able to put that together to really understand my story better. I'm still unraveling it, but that doesn't happen with everybody. It doesn't have to. It's, to your point, these odd little things where you're all of a sudden like, wow, what took me there? Knowing, it's just the knowing that, okay, it's taking you there for a reason, right? To do this.
And it is kind of interesting and fun, I think, to have some of that, for those of us who want to be tapped in. Some of us don't really care to be tapped in, but you kind of start to realize, oh, that's interesting. I've done this other thing that could explain some of these maybe emotions. They were showing me while you were talking too, that you're pulling through magnetics, that aspect to you. And as you are magnetically attached to her and she's coming closer, her emotional, the story is starting to get more into this body as the projector out into your field, where you're manifesting into the massive deep cleaning of your dishwasher, for instance, or something that is in her energetic field is now you're starting to feel it more. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They're showing you like a magnetic wave from her to you as you start saying, hey, I've connected to you, and now magnetically I'm kind of pulling you back in. Then it starts showing up in you here. Right?
Exactly. And so I'm kind of on the downside. Well, who knows really, right? But I've been dealing with her for the last year and 2 months. And so a lot's been done and cleared and integrated. But what we want to remember is there's all these other pieces that are going to show up. That's the cracks and the crevices cleaning up, right? That's
that's kind of what I was saying earlier too. She's got multiple facets within her facet of you. So as you're pulling her back, she's got different frequency aspects of herself that are at different consciousness levels too. So as you're reconnecting with her energy, pulling her back into this, you're getting the fractalize coming back, and you're starting. And so sometimes, like I've experienced this, sometimes somebody that's been hanging around you for a while and you've kind of got to know, okay, this energy, they're starting to pull, they're larger as they rise too. And so they show up as, and you think maybe, oh, this is a newer energy, but it's not in fact newer. It is the aspect that you're helping integrate. They are also integrating too. So they are metamorphosizing, changing, and rising in consciousness in their kind of like personality, the character. It's interesting to watch this, kind of knowing they're all you, but you watch, it's like a friend who's evolving, right? That's in your space. Yeah.
And I'm going to take it maybe to a little different space. What they're trying to show me is that we did talk about this to a degree. Okay, they just said it changes space-time reality. So in other words, as we've talked, let me back up. So the point in this happening for me is because they just said to me earlier, you're creating a new foundation forward. You can't take this old stuff that hung out with you in that life forward in this current circumstance, because I'm in this circumstance with the same, how do I want to say this, players, essentially, in this life to move forward in more of a more mission-oriented kind of place. But so I can't take forward some of the things that happened back then, but what they're talking, so that's why that's coming into me now for me to deal with, right? To the cleaning up of the cracks and the crevices, the dishwasher, that whole thing. But what they're saying is, and we talked a little bit about this, is that's not just changing your reality moving forward, it's shifting and changing what actually happened in what we know as history, right? I know this sounds trippy, but it changes her frame of reference with respect to how she's going to behave or be forward or have an understanding of her journey. Does that resonate with you?
It absolutely does. And a lot of these, I was kind of asking in the back of my mind, and some of these that are really stubborn, because I felt those too. They said you're integrate or drop. So they're coming in to integrate, rise, or decide to drop completely. So sometimes in our team will transmute or cut that one loose.
Yes.
And I sometimes like, well, are we integrating or what are we doing here? Because we seem to be doing both. And maybe that's what it is. It's like, okay, home is ascending, right? So if you want, you're coming in to integrate, rise, or cut you loose. And it looks like
so much sense.
We might be cutting some of these loose that don't want to go, right?
Yes,
they don't want to.
In my current circumstance, because it's actually ongoing right now, is I'm able to look at what's coming in for that learning, for that clearing out. And I'll keep using this example, but it's been going on for a year. But now this part's shown up when I thought, oops, no, you're fine.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Let me, somebody called me. I don't know how to.
Oh, that's fine. I'll just keep talking. So anyway, oh gosh, what was I going to say? She showed up again because, again, I said, I can't take this forward. I need to be aware in my circumstance. I need to be aware. I can't take this forward. And in not taking those old things forward, which caused problems in that past life, and I keep quotes past life, we fix it on both sides, I guess is what I will say, is we're fixing history in that past life by me recognizing it here in this conscious awareness. And then what I'm doing now for the future is not taking that forward into what I will then create. I know this sounds convoluted, but
no, that's right.
Yeah.
And as you know, we're talking about us changing. So we're so connected and our aspects are so multifaceted, even within our even larger multifaceted being, that it has a dramatic effect. I watched some huge backstories from these facets that have come in that have just said, oh my God, I'm bad. And it's like, here's your, I like reintroducing them to their multidimensional self, like for integration, like, oh my God, yes. Right. And they do it like, just like that. It changes based on, their influence that they've had in their fractalized lives or the situation. If they're like totally, oh my God, yes, of course I want to integrate, for Pete's sake, like, thank God I'm home kind of thing. It changes their energetics so quickly that it's what we're calling history. based on what position they were playing or role they were playing, it can change very quickly. And that's one of the cases that I would say specifically is Hillel. That's the one who played the role of Lucifer.
Yeah, and it's 11:11 right now. This is so interesting. So what they're saying also is, in my example, they said she's learning from you too. She's learning from you what you're learning to take forward from. Oh, they just said the studying you've done and are doing.
Yes.
She's watching you. It's not because see, I've in the beginning had this whole idea of, well, she's just here to teach me. I got to learn from the past so that I don't take it for it. No, it's a full on. Well, they show the spiral again. Full on integration of all of our experiences to learn from each other. Because then, that's interesting. So she's learning from me as well, which then changes her reality, which is then changes the entirety of oh God, they said of history.
Yes.
Oh, they just said we're rewriting history. Oh God.
Yes.
Okay.
In its totality. Yes.
Right. So think about this
dynamic flow of interplay with each other too. With the history is like a soup, really. So when we're changing, we say history, a moment in history will change the ingredients or the taste of the whole soup, right?
Right.
So you think of it like that changes that history, but it has a effect on everything.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just that little spot.
That's what they're saying right now is in the final part I was going to mention is they're talking about me as the example, but they're saying changes history. And then that just replicates itself across humanity. So everybody's doing this. So ultimately, okay, so I'm just going to finish this. Ultimately, what was history, okay, and its current reality actually combines together to change the course of history. Oh my God, this is weird. Change the course of history or change the entirety of what we've already experienced. So they just said to create the way forward. I know that's going to be hard to wrap our minds around, but I don't know if we can explain that any better. I know we've touched on this a little bit in the past, but what they're showing is these concentric circles of lives, but that again, we go back to they're just like 0 point, that is all coming in together to the oneness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then it changes the experience. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going because there could be some. It's changing the experience in all lives or in all experiences when one learns from the other and integrates those fractals and fragments. And in my case, I just happen to know it literally, right? I just happen to see it, know the past life, know the individual, talk to the individual, all that stuff, right? It's real for me on the ground. It doesn't have to be that way though, because this is what's happening to everyone.
Yes.
Whew.
No, that's absolutely correct. It's so interesting too, the way that there's 2 points that came flooding in because I'm getting like, yes, they're wanting to like pouring stuff, little concepts into it. So there's 2 points when you were saying the way forward is what we think of as our future, but our future, the way forward is actually
through the past.
What will happen as we're going into the past, so to speak, right?
Through the past. That's what they're saying, through the past.
Through its future, through the past. Yes. So we're it's very interesting. And the teaching and learning, this is something that, I've been listening to Law of One, the raw material.
Okay.
And there is something in there that really struck me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what Carolyn and I have been talking about. It's a reciprocal relationship from teaching and learning. So when beings come into, this reality to guide to whatever, our future selves, any of us, there is a reciprocation of teach and learn that goes on. It has to be a balanced harmonic.
Yeah, because it's all about the scales. Everything's about the balances. Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. And they try to do it without distortion.
Yeah.
Because they are responsible for any distortion that they create in the process of interference. Okay?
Right. And they're trying to show a visual of this. So I'm just going to share that real quick.
Sure.
They said black hole to me. They showed the black hole, but they're showing it's the inverse. They keep saying it's the inverse. It's the inverse. Okay. So per what you're saying, it's like it reverses itself. Like in the black hole, what they're showing me, and I don't know much about black holes, but all I know is they're showing a sucking in, but then an expelling of, but oh, they just said mix master. Okay, I have chills. So like in a black hole, in the example they're giving for what we're talking about, it's like a blending of, but they keep talking about it's the inverse.
Inverse. They use this word mixed master a lot. I'm not really sure what it.
This
So
has to do with the blending of the lives that we just talked about, of the learning between all to shift and change the way forward. But they keep talking about it's the inverse of. I don't know, maybe we'll get more information. Go ahead.
Okay. No, that's good. I'm just trying to visualize what you're saying. Well, it's so interesting too, because it feels like it's expanded out. Here we are, calling back aspects. I even stumbled upon that meditation that I sent you that was a really like focused calling back all your facets. So it's funny because it's all mixed together. It doesn't matter. Eras. I've got like a couple of two of kind of the larger energies that seem to be are the Hathors. Now Hathors, some information just came in. Hathors are also called the ethers or the authors. And you think about those two names and and that is like the mother womb. Okay, it's a very uber feminine group. They also call them the seven sisters of the Pleiades. So anyway, so this group of the Hathors are also related to the Ra collective because there's a goddess Hathor, right, within that group. So I thought, okay, so they're starting to make connections. So I'm saying when you kind of connect to an aspect or facet in the role they've played, it explodes into that actually is this as well, and this as well, and this star cluster and that group of creative beings. And
I just heard connectedness. I'm going to just throw things in that because I'm getting a ton of information. Connectedness. That's the connectedness that you're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it kind of explodes into all of these other things that persona, that aspect of you that you're connecting with now, she's got all of these, she had a human embodiment, but she's also part of a star cluster, a council, and illumination, the nine, you hear the council of nine quite a bit. They're the elders. It goes back, even the tie into a kind of superhero archetype is this group is an all-female.
Okay, I need to stop you. Okay, I got to share this or I'm going to lose all this.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm getting information. They said it's interlocking. So as you're talking about the reconnecting to the collectives and the councils, it's like, they're showing like two starships coming together. Like, how a locking in, what am I seeing? It's like a spaceship, when it's out there in the, the two pieces that come together. So what they're showing is it's a reintegration of all those facets to reconnect everything again. And what they said to me earlier when we were just moving into this Hathor, you said Hathor?
Hathor.
Hathor. They said it's all quantum. They said this is what they said, study quantum physics. It will teach you all you need to know about the process you are going through.
Yeah.
So
it's fascinating. Yeah. Entanglement. And
they said study quantum physics and then apply it to your journey. So I think that's fascinating. So go ahead. I wanted to share that.
I think it's easy for us too, because we're in a linear life that plays like a story.
Right.
And so, we tend to associate, or it's easy for us to conceptualize like stories. So as these aspects come back, they have a character, they've done things, they've had experiences, and we can relate to them in a interesting way, almost like, what have you done? What are the roles that you've played? What are the things that you've learned? What other, so-called titles or energies have you been involved in? So this group, the Seven Sisters, is kind of off, and we're known as, to give several names, and it was the seven ether. Well, as you know, ether is the fifth element that runs through all of creation, right? And then it was also author, but the O was replaced with a Y, but author, like an author, like someone who writes, creates stories, right? Okay. So they are also in a kind of a community that sounds a lot like the storyline that goes with Wonder Woman, with all the women. It's a all female civilization, right? Where there's no men there, and they're highly creative, and they have a command of their energy for healing, rejuvenation, all kinds of other things, but they're primarily just female. There's no men there. They're off warring in this other place, and we don't get into that, right? We don't allow that. So it was interesting to hear the history of this being, right? That energy is flowing through. There's a lot of ancient, cosmic, but at the same time, I'm also feeling it's a simulation.
Hold on. I gotta ask. I'm trying to connect this.
Sorry.
Okay. What's happening with you, or what's the frame? What's the context and the frame?
This is happening with the collective, but I'm feeling
okay, good.
this seriously. So, and the others might be feeling the very same thing I am. But the point that I kind of drew it out, so I'm going to go back. I was saying that the energies that are coming through are very eclectic. So what I was saying, I'm getting this really ancient kind of cosmic, and Hathor's a goddess from the ancient Egypt, you know.
Oh, okay.
But she has all of this other stuff going on that I'm learning about and feeling. And we think of that as being very ancient, right? As we're going back to the future, basically. But at the same time, while I'm feeling this, I'm also feeling this other very different, talk about changing the channel, a simulated reality where we're in stasis and we're all out exploring in avatars. And so I can feel both of those two things going on. And I'm trying to understand the simulated one, because I don't necessarily like that one so much. But there's a simulated aspects of mine or the collective that are in a simulation, asleep in stasis, in an avatar, having an experience. And I'm not sure exactly how long they've been in stasis, and I'm getting the general feeling that it's been too long.
Okay, hold on. I got to get clarity around this, because if I have questions, other people probably do too.
Sure.
I just always am like, I don't get it. So you're talking about the avatar, but aren't we avatars anyway, though? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so is this a different kind of avatar you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah. So basically, you're conscious. There's ways to putting like your organic source self being conscious body into stasis, where you can still participate with the mind. Okay. But the mind is then given, it kind of goes into a simulation, so that the form is different. The avatar is not created like us. Okay. It's different.
Okay.
It's a massive diminishment from what we're capable of, by the way. So yes. Okay. So if you feel like a dumbing down of your sensual, energetic kind of chakra system, kundalini, source self, plugged into all the energy, like I say, I love. Do you feel like this dumbing down of this thing? You're like, ooh, I kind of feel like a mannequin almost, or a doll, or some of these things can be, you're tapping into some of your aspects that are participating in bodies that are not your organic source blueprint body that you're used to, and you're kind of picking up on their energy and you're feeling it, right? Like, yeah, this body doesn't feel so good. That could be one of these things. So I'm picking up on that as well, and I'm trying to understand now. Do you remember when we were talking a couple of videos ago about having, maybe we didn't do it on video, but there was kind of like a in one of these time anomalies or things that were kind of a boo-boo, and it created an explosion. And it said it exploded and ended up creating a simulated reality.
Yes.
Okay. And it didn't sound like they were saying it was done on purpose, or it was something that was desirable. We were talking about getting the Ark of the Covenant up the King's Chamber and it blowing up the realm. Do you remember this?
Yep.
Okay. And they said, okay, it ended up creating something, a simulated reality.
Okay. So you're saying that ties to this?
I'm saying that there's aspects of all of us that might be feeling a simulated reality, because we are converging. We're pulling all these in. So I'm getting these ancient star cosmic beings, as well as possibly avatar beings. I'm feeling both types of energies as we're pulling ourselves
Okay.
back.
So let
So
me
I'm
stop
saying
you
it could be soup to nuts, what you're feeling coming through you. It
Okay,
doesn't
so
have to be just one or the other.
Yep. So let me
That makes sense.
clarify this, because
Okay.
then my question for this
Yes.
is that part of the integration process? Then what we're talking about, the converging, how we've talked in
Yes.
videos, and now, okay, so that's a simulated. I don't want to say more AI, but right?
It
More,
is. Yeah. It's like
okay.
holographic simulated reality.
Okay.
Yes.
So what does that do then? So it's integrating into the oneness of us as well, correct?
I think what it is we're feeling the aspect or facet of us that is in stasis. And we're trying to either wake them up, like a way I hear them say sometimes in the back, they'll say, wake the dreamer, wake the dreamer. And so it's almost like they're trying to wake the more organic or true kind of facet, one who's like they're dreaming, they're in a dream within a dream within a dream, right? Some of these are even further into dreams that are bringing, so you see them there.
Okay, so let me set.
I know this is a lot. I know the point I'm trying to make is what you can be feeling right now can be incredibly dynamic.
Yeah, but I guess
there are simulations happening that our facets are involved in.
Yes. But
because they've separated their consciousness out of their physical body into another form, even as an extension of the facet itself, the facet in stasis in an avatar, right? You see what I'm saying?
Kind of. So yes, I'm getting visuals. That's why I'm trying to explain, see if this fits with what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So two things come to mind is some people could be thinking, well, that's not what I want to integrate with me, an AI kind of thing. Are you kidding me? Okay, so hold that thought. Oh yeah. So then they said, so what they're giving me a sense of is what you're talking about too has to do with us being asleep and the veil. So they're trying to give some sense of, it's not as trippy as we think. It's the asleep part of us that is the in stasis part. Okay, does that make sense? Like that aspect of us that doesn't see, doesn't feel it all, doesn't know it all, doesn't. And so those parts are waking up. But they're saying there is a, and I hate to use an AI, but I don't know what else to use. An AI component to what we're already having happen to us, if that makes sense, right?
Yes.
It's already that's starting to. So as those pieces of us start to, because we are feeling some of that already. I'm getting some of that, that stasis AI part of us but then what we're talking about is there's a return of it to us, to the one, right?
Yes.
So what does that do? What does that do
for us? Here we're talking about the details of some of the stuff I'm picking up on the straws, but we're doing it all by feel. You can feel your way through this. You don't have to know all this kind of, some people are like, I don't want to know that, right? You can feel it. You can feel yourself. Like if I get this kind of weird feeling, like I don't like the way that makes my body feel, you've just made a decision, right? You've just made a decision to tell your energetic, I don't want that. Pull them back into their organic body, wake them up. We're integrating. They need to drop the avatar, right? We're not doing that. So, because I don't like the way that feels and I don't want to be in that. It feels like, for me, it feels a little trappy. It feels AI. It feels, it's kind of funny. I have to tell you this part that kind of came to me this morning, but yes, you can feel. So for me, at one time I was thinking, that sounds like maybe what I'm doing. Like my higher me is sleeping in stasis and I'm down here, I'm being the avatar, but I started to realize, no, that's not it. It is in kind of a way, but you're basically pulling your facets back in that are participating in that. To me, that's a way more of what it feels to me.
That makes sense.
Like you go astrally, you have facets, you have layered bodies, you go and do all kinds of stuff. Your soul is so busy doing all kinds of things, right? But you're the one who's feeling it all and making decisions based on your emotions and your feeling, right?
I'm getting it's magnetic. Again, they keep using the word magnetic. It's as though we're here in this, forget talking about the other lives, but we're here and it's like magnetism because of the fact we're going through journey to higher consciousness. And there's something magnetic about the fact that we're moving in frequency and vibration. So we then attract back those parts. Does that resonate?
Yes. Now I know that there's some of those reality systems. I mean, I think I mean, when they say convoluted, what was it? Dolores Cannon said wrote a book, Convoluted. Okay, seriously, it is.
Seriously.
It's unbelievably
Seriously.
complex.
It's the best word. It is the best word.
Oh, totally. And you don't really need to try to make sense of it. It kind of starts to hurt your brain to do it, because it's really not to. You almost have to release the need to make sense of it, right? And be able to observe it and see it for what it is, and just let it be. Enjoy it as much as you can, learning and finding it interesting. But if you're dead set on trying to figure it out, you're going to probably drive yourself crazy.
Yeah, and I think the
figure it out,
right. I think what we're doing here is we're giving the kind of detail, to a degree, explanation of what's going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
What we want people to know is you don't have to go out and figure this out yourself. Again, to the point that we make is each of us have, you and me, and then everybody has their own understanding to whatever degree it is of what's going on with them. I just happen to tap into past lives. So
different levels of understandings help people connect the dots. It also can be interesting. It can help them remember. Bring remembrance of other things that they're doing, whatever's interesting to them. So I'm not saying it's not. I think it's great. If we share these things, people are interested in this because it helps them remember other things. I think it helps deepen the wealth of emotion that you have even in carrying in this life. Because I don't know about you, when I've remembered a other life that I've had like a deep relationship with, or I've loved my location, my home, what I'm doing there, or there's something about it that wells up a huge emotion as I'm remembering, that doesn't leave this Jennifer. That stays with me. That deepens an emotion within me, having that remembrance of that, right? So I think there's a lot of value to it.
Yes.
But you can do it at different levels. You don't have to be all in or all out, right?
No. And I think we remember in different ways. Like mine's a little different probably than yours. I think you actually feel, see, and can live it. Mine is all synchronicity. It's all, and then I get the emotion with it when certain things show up, and then I get the visuals with it as well. But I get full on just synchronicity over and over and over. Things show up in signs and messages for me that put the story together, that literally will bring through a past life for me. I will never consciously, I haven't yet, I shouldn't say never, but remember like we do in human memory. That doesn't work. That doesn't happen to me. So I think it's different for everybody.
The way it started happening for me is kind of your inner sight. When you have clairvoyance and you see things in visuals coming in.
I have,
I would just see myself in a different environment with a partner, maybe in a house, or doing something like on a ship, or creating, but they would show me through somebody else's eyes, so I would know that's me. Right. So they're like looking at me, showing me that that's you doing this thing. So I would see clairvoyantly me in another life. Right.
Yes.
So for a while, that's how it showed up. But once I started to realize, that's my house with that partner. Actually, some of the partners I recognized, oh my God, that's who was playing my guardian here. Right. That's why he showed me his face. That's a partner I have on another life, that they showed me myself walking around. So I got familiar with the environment. But now when I see that environment, I'm seeing through my own eyes as her. But they started that way, so I would recognize where I was.
Yep. And I think everybody's different in how that comes through. It's just interesting to talk through that, how we end up seeing or remembering, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it comes in slowly, and at least mine has been pretty cool about the way they've done it, so I can understand it. Yeah. But because you said you'll never, it'll come in a way that you might be surprised. Because when I see you, when I'm communicating, like I've told you this before with you and with some others, that we have our sessions, we do our videos together, and we're talking, but your higher is always available and speaking to me whenever I think about something, that you or something your higher is always there speaking to me, and I see her.
Yep.
So it's really it's really kind of cool to tap into it. And I don't think that it's not available. It's available to everybody.
Yeah, but I think it shows up differently for everyone. Like I am not great at, and I know we're kind of going in a different direction here, but I see, I mean, I get visuals, I get all this stuff I get, but I don't have a gift of connecting into talking to other people's hires at all, or them showing up, any of that. It's very difficult for human Carolyn to even keep the attention going to trying to talk to something I can't see. Other than, but that has to do with people, that has to do with hires. But when it comes to getting channeled information and working with the crew that I work with, it just flows in. So I'm obviously, that's just not my thing, at least right now. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
We all connect very uniquely. And I think in us speaking to our examples, it gives people ideas of what might happen for them.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because in the experience, just the way my kind of journey led me, I don't have a conversation with anybody. It's always a three-way. I never even, any human that I interface with, my family, anybody, I am in constant looking at them, but also seeing their higher standing behind them at all times.
Oh, that's
so it's always a three-way conversation going on at all times.
You mean when you're in human form, Jennifer, talking to somebody, right?
Right now, as I am, yes. So no matter who it is, even my own children, when I am interacting with them human to human, I am always seeing their higher right there. It's always a three-way conversation going on.
And that never happens to me. So here's me. Okay. So this is what's so interesting is how different we all can be. Like I've known this from day one, and they always show this visual of flow on the stream, but I jump off on land and I do this 3D thing. Like I just show up in 3D and I don't do any of that. Right. I like, it's not like I go to turn it off. It just happens naturally. Like I have such a line drawn in, they said, no, Carolyn, it's actually just a fence. It's just a fence. It's just a little picket. They're showing like a little picket fence. It's not a wall. But they said, so anyway, when I'm out day to day with other people, there's none of that with me. There's none of my juju going on at all. I don't see the higher, I don't any of that, unless I start getting into a conversation that is around this kind of topic, then it will all start showing up. So it's kind of interesting. That's always how it's kind of worked for me. It's fascinating how everybody's I go back to very different in how they're going to experience this. Where do we want to go with this? How do we want to continue on?
There was a time, and many of you have probably heard this. I mean, it's just happened at one time, but many of you probably heard this, like, the gods and goddesses are all like on walking the planet now. We were hearing this, they're all coming in for this, they're all the, divine.
Well, they're incarnate humans is what they are.
So they're saying they're coming in, and a lot of it was like, well, they're coming in to help with the ascension process, they're coming in to reintegrate, they're coming in to help. There was like even like the divine, we're like, okay, let's get in there and help, like let's be participating in. And I was laughing because I was thinking about this, and I kind of remember the arrival of more energy and what they thought they were doing. Right. And it's kind of funny because you can talk to and kind of laugh about it with these aspects of you, because what they thought they would come in and just like, we're going in, we're going to get it done, we're like helping. They got in and they got a little mesmerized with being in the human experience too, and started looking around and like, now they're like, so it's almost like, it's funny because that's us now.
Totally. So what they said,
aspects of us are kind of like, they start looking around and lost their focus for a little bit,
Well, and that's part of this integration piece too, is what I'm getting. But what they have always said to me from day one, and this goes for anybody, even if you don't know a past life, they're like, remember who you are. So what'll happen to me is, because we're more than just it's wonderful that we're Carolyn and Jennifer, but they always say, remember who you are. If you remember nothing else more than the beautiful divine spark of who you are, but it encompasses all those experiences you've had. And when you start understanding some of your past lives, what they'll do a lot of times for me is when I get into the mopey human, what am I doing here thing, which we all on occasion do, they always come back with, remember who you are, remember who you are, remember, like tap back into that component,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Draw on your strength, they just said.
Yeah. It's vitally important, because it's funny though too, because as it had the opposite thing happen to me, the more when mine came in force, like they were trying to, like, and everybody around, they were telling me the same thing. All of my non-physical, everybody's like, you need to remember. It's very important to remember. You don't realize who you are, how powerful you need to do. You're doing something very important. Wait, Jennifer, started feeling very intimidated. Like I am not living. I don't know what they mean. I felt like a decrease almost a little bit. And then they're saying all of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to remember. I don't know I got intimidated because it was so extreme. They're like, wake up.
Yeah, totally.
And so I'm sitting there, I'm trying very hard to remember. I'm trying, and it almost made my ego was like, very sensitive to being told, like, you're not doing it, you're not doing well, and I need to do better. Right.
Oh, yes. So what happens with clients for me and this ties to what you're talking about, when on the occasion that I identify a past life for them very specifically, and then on occasion I actually do get a name, okay, of who they were, and that's obviously more rare, but I definitely have that as a pattern of what happens.
Sure.
They typically, lots of times, will do this thing of, but I'm just me. I'm not worthy of that. I'm not, how could that possibly be? And, how can that possibly be, that unworthiness, right? The feeling like, this is too big for me. It can't be. But that's part of this breaking through of understanding that we're back here in common human form, first of all, even because we've been all kinds of lives. And secondarily, it's helping us break through this whole culturized or enculturated understanding that we're, again, sinners, we're not worthy, we're lowly, we're nothing, we have to climb the ladder to the top. No, that's not true. So that's also assisting us in coming back into who we truly are.
Yes. And the idea of, like, when that came back into me, I felt like a lot of I started getting a lot more energy around me, and then there was a lot more interest in trying to interfere too, right? So it kind of brought in a lot at the same time, and they're like, get with it, girl, you've got stuff to do, it's important, you need to be. And so yes, it was, for me, it was too, like, I'm kind of an overachiever or type A kind of overachiever perfectionist in, like,
in the spiritual world.
even here before I woke up, it was, I worked in corporate, and I was very much like I needed to be on point. Like, I do everything that's expected of me and then some in every moment. I've always been like this, right? So for me to hear that on any level, like, you're not doing what you need to, you're not remembering because you're not, you need to, it hit me like, that's not me. I'm always doing all of my fair share and then some, right? So it was very hard for me. I'm like, so I put so much pressure on myself to remember. I think I almost impeded myself because I was doing that.
So what they're saying to me, that's because they're talking about being in a limited state in this body, and then we have to find our way out of that. So therefore, we don't know how to do the overachieving like we do in human form. Do you know what I mean? And it's very different too. It's not the hard work. It's just very different.
It is. Yes. It's like changing gears. How do I, even though I've been told you're an overachiever everywhere we know you, right? So, like, even everybody that, like, you're like this everywhere, but on this plane, it's very, like you said, to your point, it's very different. It's not doing, it's being. It's being in touch with your energy. It's being in touch with how your multidimensional being works. It's like, that kind of thing. And for me, it was like, just get this freaking veil off me so I can remember what you're talking about, and I can start, right?
So what they said to me, and this seems obvious, but they said, those of us who in human form have been the overachievers, the type A's, all that, it's more difficult for us to oh, they just said let go, but to be able to come into that space from being up here and that hard pounding driving, I got to achieve, I got to have a project plan, I have to have a goal, blah, 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 and I narrow focused, and that's what I do, right?
Yep.
To come back to this place of just letting go and flowing. We have some of the more difficult journeys when it comes to that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We all have our journey in that, in allowing ourselves to surrender and come to flow, but because we've been so indoctrinated in humankind to just focus on nothing else but achieving.
So, but it's that, like, to your point, it's very difficult here to try to change it's a different platform. It's a different, like, operating system. It's like completely removed from ego, even though that still sounds like ego, but you remove the human constructed ego and you still are like this empowered, overachieving being, but you're not working through ego, which I think is mostly the limiting, because we doubt ourselves. Ego makes us doubt ourselves or have feelings of inadequacy that takes away our empowerment. And that's where I think we throw up blocks in front of us. And
they just said that you nailed it when you said a different operating system. So, they use technology a lot, and that's just how it works, in explaining things, because we can relate to that. And then you mentioned ego. They're talking about how the ego is a different that isn't. Now they're going, antiquated operating system based on, old energy. So what they're talking about is old Pisces energy. Again, they brought this up for the February update. So that's why the ego is breaking down in everyone, because it's an old operating system. And now we're getting, they said that the antiquated system is being thrown out the window, but that's why we're seeing all this, like, pulling apart, strife, all this stuff, because so now they're showing the picture of, and I'm not a tech person, but they're showing installing a new operating system. All right. Okay. And all the stuff that on the ground in human form that comes with that, like, you're doing the whole thing, right? And you're installing, but you got to find a way. What they're showing is, like, think of a company. You're getting a whole brand new, I'm just going to say, operating system, right? And you're upgrading everything. Well, you've got to have some way to stay connected and crossover, right? But there's a lot of stuff that happens in the meantime. Your departments may go down completely. You may have to, whatever, right?
You may have to go back to paper for a while.
Right. So, but they're given this metaphor for what we're going through now. And so then as they're installing this new operating system, as we are, moving into this, the glitches, we're in the middle of all those, the crossover and the glitches and moving to the new shiny and bright operating system. So anyway, I just wanted to share that, because I think these metaphors they bring in are really powerful.
Perfect. Yes.
Yep. And so then we're at the mercy of, like, we're the employee sitting behind our desk, and all of a sudden we can't do anything or do any work. And so that's us individually seeing all this. And then what they're showing is, like, the department meetings and having the fights between, why did this go down and you've got to make this work, is all the strife out in the collective.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
It's a great metaphor. It really is.
Perfect. You're right. Because I've gone through those in a couple of different businesses I've had, and that is exactly the way this feels right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh, really... you know what? Okay. So they're also giving, just one more little metaphor. They're also giving when, God, what's it even called? When one company buys another, and there's the process. If you've ever been through this, one company buys another. And there's the period of time where you're still the old entity, but behind the scenes, there's all the work being done to integrate the two, and then the old becomes the new. But if you've ever gone through this in humankind and in your jobs where you've been bought out, if you work for big companies, you've been bought out, there's a really painful process of integrating into the new company. So that's what they're showing for this. So what I would say is, these are great metaphors for us to go, okay, wait a minute, this is what's happening in the collective.
Yes. It feels like this is what's happening cosmically too, biologically, genetically, almost. I'm looking at it like we're talking about genetics here, aren't we? We're trying to integrate we're trying to figure out what we're keeping, what we're getting rid of, and the two companies coming together, we're trying to figure out who has the best system for this thing. And the ones that are in the one company are like, oh crap, we got to learn something new. And the other one's like, oh, they got rid of our thing that we're so familiar with. So you're right. It's like a grieving process for both sides.
It is.
You're losing and having to learn new stuff, right? but you're trying to pick out what is the best and what will work together. For that. Yeah, I can feel that. I can feel that on a genetic level almost for us, like
Absolutely.
DNA.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love these metaphors they give because they can, they can help us frame things up when we're kind of confused about things. And if we can just go back to the metaphors, because they use them all the time.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff like mainframe, things that I'm seeing now that we're hooked into different, like art. It looks very artificial, like this big, always see those big black cube looking things. They're like maybe monad looking, or that feels very simulated AI to me. And I'm like, ugh, I know there's a way that's higher than that, that's better than that. It's like it's called infinite, right?
Okay,
infinite
so
intelligence, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to take us to a different place. I've got about 10 more minutes though, but this may turn into something bigger or may turn into nothing. What they're giving me very much is they just said there's a place for both. So the goal here is not to take, the goal here is to take the divine part. Oh God, I have a lot of chills. Divine part that you're talking about of us, the one that's of beauty and light and all that. But there's a place for the technology, okay? But what we see as AI, what we think of AI, the negative side of that, as we know, everything can be used for dark or light, right? But what I'm getting is there is a goal to blend the two. And I'm not talking into human form and all that necessarily, but just in general, the idea of technology and the divine being, and blending the two in the human journey to be able to be all we can be and more. But what happens is we see, as we know, things used in a way for power and control. Okay.
Yes.
So you can use AI for power and control. You could, but anyway, my point in this is they're really talking about like an end goal, or a goal is to be able to combine the best of both to create an even more, I don't want to say even more divine being, but a more like technologically advanced. There's something there that we've never experienced before, is what they're saying. And it has to do with, they keep talking about alignment now, aligning of a form of the technology with the divine being. I have a lot of chills. I don't know where this is going, but I just want to, it's not exclusive one or the other. There's something new coming.
Well, it can't, one can't diminish the other though, in my opinion. That's kind of like a full organic me saying, whatever it is.
It enhances both. It enhances, they enhance each other is what I'm getting. I don't know. I don't know what you're picking up on that, or if you have anything to say about that, but they keep talking about taking us to a new place. Like, they just divinity on steroids.
God.
I just keep seeing this. I don't know. I mean, you can see where that advancements, and
well,
we don't even know.
I think that's amazing. There's, they just flashed this back to me. Oh my God. Okay. This was one of the very first visions I ever had. And it was a combination of two different worlds. And it's exactly what you're saying right now. It's unbelievable. Okay, like the super divine, angelic, love, light, pure energy realms, and how they look. Their energy looks like very clouds and energetic ribbons and a certain way. And then there's the tech, very techy, ultra high tech, cool as all get out. I don't mean like crazy, like low, horrible stuff. And then I saw the combination of the two, and it was so beautifully eclectic, like nothing anybody's ever seen before. Exactly. And it was the two of these things put together in such a way that you were just like blown away with how amazing it is. And that was one of the first visuals I got. And I said, this is why some of these beings that have been like they're telling me there's some beings that they've been out in some place. Like I told you, nobody even knows. They don't even know they existed. They weren't participating in the cosmic community. They were out lone wolfing it out here doing something. But there's some of the ones that have this that their integration of their consciousness, their mind into is what will allow for some of these things that'll just blow everybody's mind when you put some of this really amazing stuff together. I can't even explain it. It almost opened up like it looks like a portal, and it's like all of this amazing dynamic light. That's just, it looks different from both sides, but more amazing than both. Right? So
Yep. Oh yeah, totally. You're totally aligned with what they're telling me. So what they're really going far now. So, and then I'm going to have to wrap up, unfortunately, because it feels like we could go places. Okay. So what they're talking about here is, they talk about Earth being the jewel. Humans, there's something very special about humans. The fact that we have hands and legs and arms, we can create everything. We just manifest, but we use the deep soul of us. We have that soul in us. There's something very special. And don't ask me because I don't know enough about the others. I mean, we just don't, right? Like what they can do, but there's something different and unique. And what they're showing is this combination of this technology side and this beautiful divine in the human, right? This coming together. Okay, they just said we'll offer explosiveness, but what they're also talking about is it does affect the rest of the galactic star system. I won't get into that, but what they're talking about is this is never ending. This advances us even further. If we think that just this divine, coming into our own divineness is the end goal. No, it is going so much further. They're not even showing it to me. Like we can't even envision where we can go down the road with with who we are as divinity ultimately, because what they've always said is this never ends. You know how they say, they always say like, well, what is it? Heaven is forever or whatever, it's always forever. Well, it is. In essence, what's going to happen is we're going to just keep going. There is no end to what we can actually create, but we can't even begin to see the forest for the trees on that, because we're just trying to get to where we are with this connection in between with the divine and the tech. And I keep using the word technology, whatever you want to call it, but that will advance us in a way that we have never seen before. And then that allows us to go to this far, okay, they just said a quantum level yet unknown. Okay, I have to stop. Oh,
isn't that funny though? Isn't that kind of like what I've been stumbling around trying to say for months?
Yeah,
it's something that you can't even conceive of this energy, right?
So don't even bother.
It's exactly what you just said. Yes, it's exactly right. It's like,
oh my God, I know.
I can't, there's no words for it. It's like something I don't even know how to even explain it.
Okay, so there's your video for today from Jennifer and myself. I hope you've taken something away for your journey. What I would say to you in these times is, as we are talking about this reintegration into the oneness of us, we all will have our individual journey on that. Things may happen day to day. You don't understand. You feel different. You emotionally don't understand what's going on. You may feel like another version of yourself. Just know that this is normal. And what we're explaining to you today is what that actually means when you're feeling this way. We're all going through reintegration and reintegrating with our soul fragments, our past lives, all the parts of who we are into the oneness of us for this ascension journey forward. So hopefully we've explained this a little bit to you today, and now you can all go out and study quantum physics. So yeah, right? So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this message today. Again, I'll leave you with purplerainhealing.com, my services where I offer you individual messages through your spirit team as you work with me one-on-one in your journey forward. And again, thank you so much for being here today, and I will see you in the next video.